Okay, so I'm going to talk very, very briefly because, in fact, I have so much material to go over in my head to sort out that I'm afraid of saying too much. But that in itself, I think, is a measure of how, for me, how successful this conference was, about which I was extremely dubious. I think one thing that I really want to think about and that I might have changed my mind on is I think I'm feeling that the manifest image and the scientific image is closer than I used to by way of neuroscience. I actually feel that things that I thought there was just no way of bringing together. And yesterday's discussion about meaning was extremely useful to me in changing my mind about that I actually think there are some things we can say about generating meaning, intentionality, even mattering, perhaps. But I'm now seeing them as somewhat closer than I had before, but I have to think through that. This thing about free will, my mind was not at all changed. I've been thinking a lot about whether we should get rid of the word. For theoretical reasons, yes, I do think so. It would clean things up. However, it's very important never to forget that there's a whole history of discussion, and that what we're saying is a continuation of that discussion. And it would be very, very important, if we do decide to change the word, not to say we've dropped the ball, that we're answering certain questions that have been discussed here, or presenting what to me is a very coherent answer, and so that that there's a certain danger in changing the vocabulary there, because the continuity of the question. What else? I was a little disappointed in the discussion of consciousness, just because I would have liked to hear more of a connection between our discussion of the first day, in which we spoke about reduction and explanation and entailment and what's required for one level to be reduced to another. I wanted that brought home to consciousness, and what people here had to say about that, whether we're there, whether we're not, how far. I really would have liked, and if there was a difference of opinion about that, I would have liked to have heard that. Connected with that, another subject I wish we had actually had on the board was the self, the nature of the self. And Terry, you mentioned, I think at the end of the last discussion, that none of this makes sense without the notion of, sort of an organism acting, undergoing this. And that was sort of parenthetically inserted there, and I think that's an extremely important point, and would have liked to have heard that discussed. The other thing was, I was very interested in the discussion about are conscious reasons better than unconscious reasons? And Dan, your remarks about, thinking's a kind of conversation, and there are different speakers that we have going on there, and once you make it conscious, you're making it available to different parts of you. I think that's, for me, a very, very useful idea. And it also reminded me of the use of this kind of thing. This is, because, we're putting these things out there for not just other parts of our minds to hear, but other people who are thinking about this, people from different disciplines, enormously, enormously useful. And so I wish that this conversation could continue. I wish that we could not only push naturalism forward, but this particular group. I would want to just keep talking to this particular group about these issues.